Hello friends, another rambly talky video coming at ya. So I finished the third season of Aggretsuko today. And it's going to be a combination video of me talking about the show and also talking about season 3 specifically. I really like the show, like more than I think I give myself credit to liking. Like, this show is so good, and I have reasons to think it's so good. I was thinking about this a lot, so I want to talk about it. I also want to kind of start practicing talking without using ums and likes as much. I'm focusing on the ums this time, so hopefully my game will be lower. That's a very specific thing that I am personally trying to keep in mind, so I might as well practice a little bit. Like that. That's what I'm not gonna do. That's what I'm not gonna do. Okay, so Aggretsuko is about a little red panda, and she gets angry at normal life, basically. She works a terrible job. She just, all this stuff piles up, and she takes out her anger in a screamo fashion in a karaoke bar. I'm sure people have seen this trailers. Yeah, I'm just trying not to say trying not to say Ignore my realization whenever I do. So she always goes to a karaoke bar, yada yada yada. Go look up a trailer. It's pretty self-explanatory story that works really well as an adult cartoon, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. This show is such a great adult cartoon. And there's a lot of adult cartoons out there, and they get a lot of criticism. Shows like South Park, shows like Family Guy, they're kind of shows that take a more, I don't want to say comedy focused, more ridiculous focused, like you're supposed to be just laughing at it. And South Park has kind of warped itself into a more social commentary, political commentary kind of thing, which I think more adults will come to appreciate. But shows like Family Guy, shows like American Dad, shows like Bob's Burgers, I think that more lines up with maybe teenagers by my observations. I'm sure adults watch them, but they always seem like shows more geared towards like young adult, which is fine. I think that's great. And this show is geared young adults too. But the thing is, I genuinely don't feel a teenager would get as much out of it. It's very much close to how I feel about BoJack Horseman. And if you don't know, BoJack Horseman is one of my favorite cartoons to come out in the last, probably, how long have I been alive? It is so good. If you haven't seen BoJack Horseman, please watch it. It is just absurdly awesome. I could talk forever about that show. This show's a close second. They're both Netflix shows. So this is a Sanrio company show, so it's kind of messing with expectations. It kind of, at first you're like, oh, this is a cutesy show, but then it's like, oh, it's about adult stuff, and it's about, she is getting angry and doing screamo. That's not Sanrio. But even beyond that, it's almost taking it another level where it's busting your expectations on already busted expectations. Once your expectations have been broken, you expect certain things. You expect, oh, okay, this is going to be more adult focused. This is going to be more extreme, funny scenarios where she's screaming. But it's not. It's like an expectation curve U-turn. It goes right back. It's not super over the top. It's very mellow. It's very down to earth, very, very down to earth. And it's mainly about emotions and connections you have with other people. And all the characters are so well written. Each season kind of focuses on Retsuko's self-realization in some way, shape, or form, usually pertaining to her adult life. Something about her being, most of the time about her being happy. And the third season was really good for that as well. I really like the way the stories are usually told in these seasons. They're usually kind of putting it in a perspective where you sort of just take life one step at a time. It's not really telling you a solution to the problems, more just letting you know there are ways to cope with it. And it might not get easier, but as long as you keep working at it, you'll cherish those little moments and those little victories that you have. And it's so sweet, and it's so nice, and it's actually some true wisdom that you can use as an adult because when you're an adult, and I guess take it from me, I'm 24, especially this age range, when I was, last year to this year, it's been a lot of like, I'm working full time now. I think that might also be a part of the show. Is this show's first season came out, I think, right around when I moved, just right about that time. And it really hit at home for me because it was at that age where I was getting a full-time job and I was devoting myself. I was done with college and I was devoting myself to work and, have a career. And this show, it puts into perspective that stuff is not easy at all. And it's emotionally draining. And it almost feels like human beings aren't meant for it, which is ironic because they're animals. Ha ha ha, funny. But yeah, it's this great idea that it doesn't really tell you there's an answer because everyone's situation is different, but it's telling you that there are ways to remedy it a little bit. And, Aggretsuko, obviously, just on the surface, not even delving into spoilers or specific scenarios that happen in the show. On the surface, it is about a girl who works a shitty office job, and the way she cools off is she goes into a screamo, rage-induced song in a karaoke bar. And that's her way of coping with this stuff. And for that fleeting moment, it feels okay, and she's able to just yell at the world. And it's great. I love that about it. I love that about the show. It's kind of trying to tell you that it's hard, and it's being very relatable on that front, but it's not like BoJack where it's almost there's an overall good message in BoJack Horseman, but it's putting it in an angle where it's like trying to kind of hit you with reality, where they're saying life is hard, life is tough, it doesn't get easier, people are gonna hate you, figure it out. Not really figure it out, but more like, yeah, ... like there are no easy answers, which is very, very telling and cool and just thought-provoking show. And I don't think Aggretsuko wants to do that. This is the adult cartoon, and I'm by the way, I'm purposely referring to this as adult cartoons because I think that's important for a show like this, because there aren't a lot of good adult cartoons like this, and it's important. This show is lighthearted, it's cutesy, it's funny, it's most of the time very down to earth and not taking itself too seriously, while incorporating themes and messages and scenarios that are way more relatable and easier to take in as an adult, which is important for shows and cartoons especially, because cartoons don't get that. You watch an episode of South Park and it's about them going to Imagination Land and fighting something, and there's some, woke subtext about political monarchs or something. What are you going to do with that information as an adult? It's fun, sure, but I think when you're trying to write a story that can be related to and that you can reflect off of and you can see yourself in, something like Aggretsuko is so much more powerful and so much easier to take in. These characters are just so well written. I cannot recommend this show enough. I know this has been a long pitch spiel, but please watch it if you haven't. I'm going to go into some spoilers now, so if you've seen Season 3, this is where I'm going to start talking about Season 3. I loved this season. I thought this was great. I loved Season 2. Okay, so if you've seen it, this is obviously for the people who've seen it. So Season 2 was really cool. I really like Season 2 a lot because I love that character they added. Tadano was his name, I think? The donkey character, the Apple, what do you call him? What the fuck? The Steve Jobs kind of guy. I loved his character because it was a great opportunity for Aggretsuko to basically have everything but nothing at the same time, because the whole season is about her wanting to get married and wanting to have this life that she imagined as a kid and just be a housewife and not have to worry about working and all this stuff. So when she dates this guy, it feels like that's going to happen. He's rich, he's smart, he has everything figured out. And she's so focused on that. I mean, it's a good kind of reflection of the first season too, because the first season did this too. She was so in love with the idea of him as a person rather than who he actually was as a person, if that makes any sense. It was more about her falling head over heels for him because she would give him this life that she was just dying for, or she thought he would. It turns out in the end, their interests didn't line up, and I thought that was a really cool, powerful message of her being like, I want to have kids, I want to do this, and he's like, kids are stupid, marriage is stupid, like, don't do that, like, you're smarter than that. And she feels stupid for it, and then, you know, she's talking to Tone or whatever, and Tone's like, hey, don't like half-ass it, like, you know, stand up for yourself, like, you're important too, kind of thing. And it's like, damn, that's really smart, because there's plenty of people out there in smaller scenarios and bigger scenarios that do that they'll be so focused on a relationship, even a friendship, not even a romantic relationship, where they want something, but they don't necessarily want the person. They just want that thing the person can give to them, which in some ways is what a relationship is, but it has to be more than that. And I think that was a great thing to talk about in an adult cartoon. And I respect it immensely for that. It's stuff that I've personally struggled with relationships in the past, and I loved to see it be talked about because it put it into perspective and gave a pretty good, it was nice because it was just a scenario. It was like, you know, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the scenario between these two, and it felt very realistic. I was sucked the fuck into that season. By the way, every time a new season comes out, first season I even did this with, I think, I binge watch. I don't binge watch things often. I usually get tired of things. Like, I'm exhausted of this show, you know, I watched 2 episodes, I'm done for the day, like, I want to do something else. I just binge watch Aggretsuko. I am in love with it. It's so easy to watch, man. So anyway, transitioning into season 3. Also, Haida, the character Haida, he has a ton of cool character development in season 2, I feel, with him kind of coming to terms with the idea that he has to work, you know, he has to try pretty hard to get Aggretsuko to notice him and like him, and him just stop being a wuss and start pursuing it and stuff. And season 3 kind of picks up with him kind of realizing that it's not a great idea almost. And I have like differing opinions on how I wish the story would have went in season 3, which is neither here nor there. I don't like doing that. I don't like being like, I wish this thing happened in this season, but it doesn't, so I'm like mad about it. Because I mean, whatever happens, however they write it, as long as it's well written, I don't mind. Not personally how I would have wrote a story like it. Like, I think it would have been more interesting to do different things, but that's totally fine. If they have a plan, if they think it's a better idea to do something some specific way, I trust them because I've liked the show so far. But anyway, yeah, so this season focuses way more on Haida than I thought. But yeah, basically, you know, she joins a idol group accidentally, because I love that scene too. What a relatable scene. The second episode, she gets a rental car, and you could tell, I could tell she was gonna get in an accident from like the second she like was distracted on the road for a second, and I was like, oh, don't, please don't. This is because she's really antsy about her money, because she's doing all these, she keeps playing this online game and wasting her money, so she's being really careful with her money, and she keeps losing money. I don't know, all this stuff about that. So she's constantly thinking about her money intake. She's not buying as much food and everything. She's super stressed about it. And her mom gives her some money and says like, oh, don't worry about it too much. Really sweet part too, where she's like, keep it together. That was what the note said. Oh, so sweet. And then she gets into the parking lot, and she's like, oh, I think I'm a little too far back. I'm going to pull up a little bit. And she doesn't realize she's in reverse, and she backs up into the car in back of her. And like, the reactions in the show are always really over the top, the facial expressions and the way they're animated, but it works so well because it's so like, it's such a relatable feeling. I've gotten in a car accident before, and it was my fault, and man, the like drain on your body when you feel that and you know what just happened, and they captured it perfectly. I loved that scene. But basically, she goes into debt with some weirdo guy played by ProZD. I like ProZD, he's cool. She goes into debt. She works as an accounting manager for basically an idol group until they find out she does Screamo, and then she kind of joins their idol group, all while Haida's kind of pursuing a different person. And I really, really like the direction that this went with Haida, because I thought it was so smart to show, I'm not gonna lie, so this is the kind of thing that was differing within my opinion of this, the way this ended and everything. I was really hoping Haida, like the resolution of Haida in this season was, Retsuko isn't somebody I want to waste my time with. Like, he's using so much of his energy trying to get noticed, but she doesn't care. Like, she really doesn't put the time in. She only uses him when it's convenient, even in this season. Really only sees him by chance and uses him for convenience in, like, the guitar lessons and stuff. And it feels so half-assed. Like, it feels like Haida has such a crush on some person that barely even notices him. And even by the end, I thought it was still the same deal. It was like, I feel like Retsuko really, I mean, maybe she will work towards getting to know him, but it feels like such a one-way street. And maybe they'll talk about that next season. But I felt like this was a good opportunity too, because he meets another person, Inui, which is the cutest character in the world. I loved her so much. She's like a little dog, and she was great, and I love her. And she was super sweet, and I thought they were really great, and they were really hitting it off or whatever, and Haida was just funny and awkward, and he was cute. But she kind of gets a hunch that he has a thing for Retsuko, and then finds out that Retsuko is at his house, and it's kind of like, hey, make your decision, like, figure it out, because I'm not going to just keep waiting around for you, kind of thing. Super smart, again, super adult, super realistic, no stupid rom-com. I mean, there is rom-com drama, but it never goes to the part where you think everybody's stupid. The only person who's stupid, really, is, like, Haida, because Haida's just being ridiculous, which is also kind of realistic. Like, there are people who just kind of get, like, antsy and don't know what to do with the situation. But even in this scenario, there's this episode where he's like, he wants to hang out with Inui, and Retsuko's like, well, I want to learn guitar. How about Saturday? And he accepts both of them. But there's not, like, some stupid rom-com thing where he's trying to, like, you know, get them both there at the same time. It's like, she comes over, she leaves in the afternoon, and Inui comes over at night. Figured it out. Wasn't a drama situation at all, dramatic situation at all. It was totally fine. Yeah, and what was I just saying? But yeah, I like how they do Inui's character, because it feels very realistic, and it felt like a great opportunity for Haida to kind of have the realization that Retsuko might not be worth pursuing. You know, he has this crush on her, but why? And I remember at one point, Feneko, sorry, I was blanking on her name. Feneko asks him, why do you have a crush on her? Like, think about it. Why do you have a crush on her? Where did it come from? Like, actually truly think about it. And he does, and he kind of has some weird reason where he's like, she felt real. She felt like she was filling water bottles in the work thing, and it was kind of this, like, soft sort of seam through the, you know, the what do you call it? The kind of the guise that she puts on, where she's human. Like, it's this nice little piece of, like, she's a person too. And it's super relatable, and it was really nice. It was a great way to justify his crush on her, but also I was like, okay, but, like, also she doesn't give a shit about you most of the time, so just saying. Oh, sorry. And in the end, there's some really dramatic stuff with a stalker for the idol group, and Haida basically saves Retsuko's life at the end, and Retsuko kind of is in, like, a sulking thing. It's very weirdly paced at the end. I wouldn't be surprised if people kind of don't like the ending to the season. I didn't mind it too much, but basically the way it happens is she gets stalked, she almost gets stabbed by this guy with a box cutter, and then Haida comes in and, like, saves her and gets hurt doing it, and she faints. And then it cuts to a scene where he's like, when is she coming back to work? And everyone's like, she might not want to come back to work. You have to understand that she was there was pretty intense trauma. And he's like, she's got to come back to work. And then he goes to her house and he's like, hey, I'm bringing you somewhere. And he drags her to a karaoke bar and he's like, hey, sing, like, you know, do the thing. We just talk it out or whatever. And he's like, and she's like, what? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you think you know me? You don't know me. You don't know what I want. And, you know, she starts screaming about it. And he kind of knows. He's like, then tell me or whatever. And it's whatever. And then she's talking about how miserable everything is and how life is just, you know, pelting her at all angles. And Haida's like, then let's fight back. Let's do this together, kind of thing. And I don't know. It's cute. It's a good message. It felt a little weird, though. It felt very rushed and sort of half-assed in some ways. I didn't love the way it was resolved. It kind of then cut to her at work. She quit her idol job, which was weird, too, because it felt like that was a big part of her character in that season, was that she wanted to stay an idol instead of working this shitty job that she hates, but then she chooses the shitty job she hates. I wasn't sure. Hopefully they talk about this kind of thing more in season 4, because I'm sure there'll be a season 4. But it was just kind of a strange ending. But overall, season was great. All the characters they added were great. I loved basically every single new character. The scenarios and all the situations they got in were very cool. And even the dramatic moments that I was critiquing were pretty dramatic and pretty intense. I was like on the edge of my seat near the end. It was pretty cool. And again, the emotions and the connections with people and the different relationships they have with others is as realistic and well told as it's ever been. It really is. I cannot stress this enough, how well done this show is as an adult cartoon. It really is super relatable, just super fucking good, man. I really, really like this show, and I'm sad that I binge watched these in 3 hours, because now I have to wait another, year for another season, and I'm just dying for more episodes. I could watch this show literally forever. There could be 700 episodes of the show, and I would eat it up. I loved it. I love it so much, and I highly recommend you watch it. If for some reason you got this far and you don't care about spoilers, but if you have seen it, good on you. Keep watching. I think this show is so important, so cool, and thank you for listening to me ramble about it. Hopefully I didn't say and uhs and likes as much. Probably did. This is my test recording for that, as well as an excuse to talk about a really good cartoon. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Thank you.